So, lost battles then. We're here at the Battle of Marathon and we're ready to start. We're coming into the first turn. The Athenian army here on the left side of the board, looking to get to grips with this Persian army over on the right. So I've moved the Athenian turn marker onto turn 2. As discussed, turn 1 is bringing the army onto the board. I've set their commands to 6 and now we've got to look at what we'd like to try and get done. So the Athenians have got these outlying average hoplites, single average hoplite pushed forward here and another one over here. And so the first thing we're going to do is try and get some insurance against the heavy cavalry that the Persians have got out on either flank. So there's some heavy cavalry out here which can swing round and start coming down the flank here, and likewise some levy heavy cavalry over there. So the first thing we're going to do is spend 2 commands on a express activation for this hoplite unit here, and that's going to give it 2 actions which can't be combat. Well, that's fine, we're not charging into combat over here. We're planning to swing it around here for 1 action and out into this zone for 2 actions. So we'll spend 2 commands for that express activation. Just drop that down to 4. And similarly, we're going to do the same out here. We're going to spend 2 commands on an express activation. That's going to give this unit 2 actions, 1 to swing round and 1 to go out there. And I'll drop their commands by 2 again. And you could say, well, you're not putting them at danger of being taken in the flank by the cavalry. But no, because getting to them would cost 3 actions. Turning would be 1, moving would be 1, attacking would be 1. And you can't get 3 actions. You can get 4 for an express activation, but that doesn't allow you to fight, so they're quite safe there. A normal activation for these cavalry will bring them round here and round here, and there are certain little wrinkles in the rules that I didn't explain in the full rules, in the sort of summary that I gave, but there are circumstances where you can make free facing changes, and facing against an enemy if you've got nothing else around you is one of them. So if the cavalry does move in here, this hoplite will get a free facing change, although it'll cost him some dice penalties on his attack. So we're quite safe there. Well, as safe as you are on an ancient battlefield, but we're safe from just being mugged. That takes the Athenians down to 2 commands. What we'd like to do now then is spend so we'll spend 2 commands on a group activity, on a normal activation here for this entire group. That costs 2 commands, but the leader here will pay 1, will reduce that cost by 1, so he'll pay 1 of that 2 essentially on our behalf, and so we'll pay 1 command to activate that group, and at that point of dropping to 1 we get to roll our dice and see where we go. So we have got 2 more commands and we'll go back up to 3, and this group is activated, and we'll just move it all straight forward towards the Persian lines. So just all 7 hoplite units just coming forward. Pretty straightforward, and then that leaves us with 3 commands to spend. That's interesting. Now you'll notice that here in the centre there are some markers showing key zones. In every battle there's a key zone, and it's these centre zones on these 6 centre zones count towards can influence army morale rolls based on controlling enemy enemy zones. So if you can get across the halfway line into the enemy zones, that can be beneficial, or a hindrance to them when they get to make when they come to make army morale rolls. So these key zones essentially count double for that purpose. I'm not going to explain the full mechanics, but that's what those key zone markers are doing. So we've got these 4 hoplites which we could advance in to defend our key zone. On the other hand, our 4 hoplites here are not as well placed to take on these Persians as our 7 hoplites here to take on these, mainly because these have got average troops at the front of here, some levies in the back, but they've got average troops in here. This group would probably give this group a fair good battle and could potentially win that confrontation, whereas this group of 7 hoplites is likely too powerful for that group there. So we'd much rather advance against these. So we're going to spend 2 commands to activate on a normal activation for this group, and we're going to move all these forward as well. So pretty straightforward again, but it does mean moving 7 units. And that leaves us with 1 command. And we've activated here, here, here and here, so there's only these guys to use it on. We could, for 1 command, we could do a limited activation with them, which would allow us to change facing with them, but that doesn't seem like it's very useful, just to turn towards one of the flanks. Or we could activate a single unit and move it forward up into this key zone. There is a opposing unit, single unit there. Again, I don't know why we'd want to do that. It seems rather inefficient. And that's pretty much our choices. If we were going to attack somewhere, that command plus a commander would allow us to have a +1 bonus, but that's not happening either. So that is the Athenian first turn. And now we go, there's no combat because there's nothing to fight. The only thing within reach was, no, we couldn't have got to that. So the last thing we have to do, if it's not obvious, is designate in each of our zones our lead unit in case we ourselves are attacked. Here it's obvious because there's only 1 unit, so it's got to be the lead unit. Here it's, well, we've got 7 average hoplites, it's the one out in front. Here it's the one out in front, here it's the one out in front, and over here there's only 1. It's in this battle, because of the force makeup, it's usually pretty obvious, and by default it's the unit you shove out in to the front of the zone that you're in. And that's it. That's the Athenian turns done. It's that simple. It's taken 7 or 8 minutes, and it would have been quicker without the camera. So now we go over onto the Persian side and see how they're going to respond. Persian turn then, here in the Battle of Marathon in Lost Battles 5th column games. And yes, I've put their 5 commands up. I've moved the turn marker on for them onto their second turn, and we've now got to consider what to do, how to respond to the Athenian moves. So I've tried advancing, in the previous games I've tried advancing these troops up to meet the Athenian lines, and you lose. Your troops aren't as good, and you give the Athenians the first hit because you move up to them, but that's your action, and then as their action they get to attack you. So not only are they better quality troops, but they get to attack first, and that's a very losing proposition for the Persians. So we're going to have to do something different. If we look down here on the flanks first, then let's look at the situation this cavalry's in. We'd love to get the first blow in against this hoplite, And cavalry, given a normal activation, has 2 actions rather than 1, which right now isn't enough to get us to an attack on this guy. We would need 3, and we both know it. We'd calculated that before, but what we could do is activate this and swing it round and stay 2 apart, and then our next turn we could move and attack, and that's the advantage, the big advantage that cavalry or non-cataphractic cavalry and chariots have, is that move and attack, representing a sort of charge, move that they can make on a normal activation. And we can do that both sides. And if they want to counteract that, then these hoplites, well, they can turn to face us, but they can't. They could turn to face us and move forward, but they then couldn't attack us. So we'd get the first blow in either way. That's going to cost us an activation. Sorry, it's going to cost us a command, because a normal activation for a single unit, which that cavalry is, costs 1 command. So for 2 commands we can swing our cavalry round on either flank, and that looks like a good thing to do. So let's do that here. And let's do that on the other flank as well. There we go, and I will drop our commands down by 2. Okay, the centre here then. I don't want to advance in here, and I don't want to advance in here. I don't want to do that. That's bad. But I do want to advance into here. And the reason I want to do that is to protect these 2 zones where it looks like the Athenians are going to advance. Because if they then advance into here, and I've got a great bunch of troops in here, then they're attacked from the front, and then I can swing around onto their flank and defend like that. And similarly, if they come in here, I can swing onto their flank and attack in here. And if they do both, well, I'm going to have to suck it up, but you know, on one flank or the other I'm going to have to suck it up, but on the other flank I'm going to be able to swing onto the flank of the attackers. And then they're going to be able to respond by coming up here, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But at least if I push forward into this zone here, I'm not letting them just march forward and start chewing me up. I'm giving them bigger problems than that. So 2 commands here, and that will allow me to advance this whole group if I wanted to into here. Do I want to bring the levies with me? Because that's the other question. Or do I want to leave them behind? Part of me wants to leave them behind, and part of me says, well, they'll just not get into the action at all. They're no real use to me there. They may as well be in a great big group here, with the leader offering some opportunities to reduce the costs if I want to try and get clever with them later on. So we are going to activate this whole group for 2 commands. So we'll drop down to 1 on the command track, and that means we get to roll the dice, and we get a 3. So we go back up to 4 commands, and this group is activated, and we'll all come forward into our key zone here. I'll move all these forward, and we've got 4 commands left, and it would be really nice to have something to do with them. I mean, it would allow us to advance in either of these 2 zones, but as I've said, we don't want to do that. It's a losing proposition. So we're just going to waste the rest of our commands. I'll just make sure that I want to do that. Yeah, I've got nothing to spend those on, literally nothing. So what we have to do now is make sure we've got a lead unit in each zone that we occupy. So down here it's obviously the only unit we've got. Here we've got nothing but levy archers, so that unit there can be the lead. Here it's this average archer unit out front. Here we have 2 levy hoplite units and 4 levy archer units. So we've actually got a couple of hoplites in here. Do I want to make them the lead unit? Well, we can't be attacked next turn, so because again, yeah, no, we can't be attacked because, you know, infantry just gets 1 action which will move it forward. That's the whole reason we're staying back. So it really doesn't matter, but let's make it the levy hoplite for now. And we'll decide next turn what to attack with. And over there it's obviously the cavalry. That is the end of turn. It is turn 2 actually, but the end of the first played turn. But anyway, we'll call it the end of turn 2 here at Marathon. And I will probably stop here and just do a turn each vid as a turn of the game and see how that goes.